The broadcast went live across every remaining human settlement. Commander Jake Morrison watched the feed from Mars Colony 7 as 10 billion souls on Europa base simply ceased to exist. The Valkyrie Empire's demonstration weapon turned the moon's ice into plasma in 3 seconds flat. High Chancellor Zethris appeared on screen, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Primitive species of Earth, you have 48 hours to surrender unconditional control of your star system. Refuse and we demonstrate again. Jake's hands didn't shake. 20 years in the Colonial Defense Force had taught him that fury was a tool, not a weakness. He opened a secure channel to Earth's War Council. This is Morrison. I'm activating Protocol Nightmare. Authorization code Phoenix 77 Black. General Lisa Hayes appeared on his screen, her face carved from stone. Jake, that protocol was theoretical. We've never tested it on living subjects. They just murdered 10 billion people while eating their afternoon meal. I'm not interested in theory anymore. Across human space, 7 research stations received identical encrypted messages. Dr. Kevin Price read his twice, then walked to his laboratory's containment unit. Inside, the specimen waited. Humanity had found it drifting in deep space 8 years ago, a Valkyrie scout ship with its pilot still alive. The Empire had no idea humans possessed one of their own. They had no idea what humans had learned. Price activated the quantum scanner. The Valkyrie physiology was remarkable, efficient, and elegant. It was also catastrophically vulnerable to a specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation that human bodies absorbed harmlessly. The Empire's arrogance had kept this weakness classified, known only to their military elite. Now humanity knew it too, beginning synthesis of compound V7. Price said into his recorder, if the models are correct, airborne dispersal will achieve full saturation of Valkyrie neural tissue within 90 seconds of exposure. On Earth, President Catherine Wells addressed the remains of humanity's government. The Valkyrie think we'll surrender. They think we're animals who'll choose slavery over extinction. They're about to learn what humans choose when you corner us. The War Council voted unanimously. Operation Alien Extinct was approved. Jake Morrison's fleet departed Mars 18 hours later. 43 ships, each one a modified freight carrier packed with weapons the Valkyrie had never seen. Human engineering had always been crude by galactic standards, but crude didn't mean ineffective. It meant unpredictable. The Valkyrie Armada waited at Jupiter's orbit, 300 warships arranged in perfect formation. They were expecting a surrender delegation. They were expecting humanity to beg. Admiral Krevith watched the human ships approach with amusement. Such a tiny fleet, such a pointless gesture. He almost admired their spirit. He would spare a few thousand of them as museum pieces, perhaps, a reminder of the species that chose extinction over wisdom. Human vessels, you will power down your weapons and prepare for boarding. Your surrender will be processed according to Imperial law. Jake Morrison opened a channel. This is Commander Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. We have a counter-proposal. You will withdraw from our system immediately, or we will demonstrate a weapon of our own. Krevith's laughter echoed across the communication link. Demonstrate? You have nothing we fear, Primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. We have given you mercy by offering terms. Accept them. Mercy, Jake repeated. You broadcast the death of 10 billion humans and call it mercy. Let me show you what we call justice. The human ships scattered, moving in patterns no Valkyrie tactical computer recognized. Chaos, disorder, inefficient. Then the first canisters launched. They spread across the Valkyrie formation, hundreds of thousands of small pods that detonated silently in the vacuum. A mist that shouldn't exist in space, held together by human innovation and desperation. Inside the Valkyrie ships, the screaming started immediately. Krevith felt it first as a tingling in his primary neural cluster. Then came the pain. Every Valkyrie in the fleet felt their nervous systems beginning to dissolve. The compound worked exactly as Dr. Christopher Price had predicted. Within 90 seconds, 300 ships filled with elite Valkyrie warriors became 300 floating coffins. Jake watched the enemy fleet go dark. No emotion showed on his face. All ships begin jump calculations. We're taking this to their homeworld. Across human space, the message spread. The Valkyrie had taught humanity a lesson about power. Now humanity would teach the Empire a lesson about consequences. Operation Alien Extinct had just begun, and it would not stop until every Valkyrie who had approved that broadcast understood what it meant to face a species with nothing left to lose. The war for survival had become a war of extinction, and humanity intended to win. The Velkhari Empire controlled 47 star systems and counted its population in the hundreds of billions. They had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 3,000 years, crushing 17 lesser species into servitude. Their technology was superior, their tactics refined through countless campaigns, their victory inevitable. They had never fought humans before. Jake Morrison's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velkhari home system, 43 ships against an empire. The odds were laughable. That was exactly what Jake was counting on. "Commander, we're being hailed by their planetary defense network," his communications officer Danny Cooper reported. "They're demanding our identification and purpose." "Tell them we're here to accept their surrender," Jake said. "And Danny, make sure they understand we're serious." The response came in 15 seconds, a fleet of 80 Valkyrie defense cruisers moving to intercept. The Empire was efficient. Jake would give them that. They were also predictable. "All ships execute scatter pattern Morrison 3. Launch decoy packages on my mark." The human fleet broke apart, each ship moving independently. The Velkhari computers tried to track them, assign threat assessments, calculate firing solutions. While they calculated, the human ships released thousands of small objects that looked exactly like ships on Velkhari sensors. Admiral Thex commanded the defense fleet from his flagship. He had fought for the Empire for 60 years and never lost a battle. These humans were brave but foolish. 80 ships against 43. Simple mathematics. Target the largest human vessels. Destroy them first, then sweep up the survivors. His weapons officer hesitated. "Admiral, the targeting systems are showing 3,000 human ships. That's impossible. They only arrived with 43. "Electronic warfare," Thex said calmly. "Filter out the false signatures and find the real targets." But the Velkhari systems couldn't filter them out. Human decoy technology was primitive, crude, and based on principles that made no sense to Velkhari computers. Each decoy broadcast slightly different signatures, moved in slightly different patterns, behaved in ways that violated efficient combat doctrine. The Velkhari targeting systems tried to process the chaos and failed. While they failed, the human ships closed the distance. Dr. Kevin Price monitored the battle from Earth's war room. His screens showed real-time data from the engagement. The Velkhari were confused, disorganized, good. Confusion was humanity's greatest weapon right now. "Dr. Price, the orbital defense platforms are launching," an analyst reported. 400 automated weapons stations coming online. Price smiled. "Perfect. Have they scanned the decoys yet?" "Affirmative. They're treating each one as a potential threat. Then they're about to waste an enormous amount of ammunition on empty boxes." Human engineering at its finest. The Velkhari defense platforms opened fire. Thousands of energy weapons lit up the space around the human fleet. Decoys exploded by the hundreds. Real ships took damage, shields flaring under the assault. The human fleet kept coming. Jake Morrison felt his ship shudder as a plasma burst grazed their port side. "Engineering, I need those shields at maximum. We're going into close quarters." "Shields are holding, but we can't take many more hits like that," his chief engineer Linda Grant replied. "These ships weren't built for frontline combat. Then we won't stay in one place long enough to get hit." All ships activate the Peterson drive modifications. Across the fleet, modified engines engaged. Normal faster-than-light drives needed careful calculations, precise jump coordinates, and safe distances from gravity wells. The Peterson modifications threw all of that away. They allowed micro-jumps, short bursts of FTL travel that were catastrophically dangerous and utterly unpredictable. Exactly what the situation required. The human ships began blinking in and out of normal space, short jumps, never more than a few thousand kilometers, but enough to completely destroy Velkhari targeting solutions. One moment a human ship was there, the next it was gone, reappearing somewhere completely different. Admiral Thex watched his tactical display with growing alarm. This is impossible. Nothing can jump that close to a planetary gravity well. Their ships should be tearing themselves apart. His science officer checked the readings 3 times. "Sir, they are tearing themselves apart. Wall stress indicators show critical damage on multiple human vessels. They're killing themselves with these maneuvers. Then why do they continue?" The science officer had no answer. Jake Morrison knew why. Because 10 billion humans had died while the galaxy watched. Because the Velkhari expected humans to be rational, to calculate odds, to surrender when defeat was logical. But humans had never been particularly good at being logical when they were angry. All ships converge on these coordinates. Launch chemical payload on my mark. The human fleet assembled in close formation directly above the Valkyrie homeworld's capital city. Every defense platform targeted them simultaneously. Every orbital weapon locked on. The humans were trapped, surrounded, finished. Jake Morrison hit the launch command. 43 ships released their cargo. Millions of canisters, each one filled with compound V7. They fell toward the planet below, burning through the atmosphere, spreading across the sky like rain. Vex realized what was happening too late. Intercept those canisters. Destroy them before they reach the surface. The defense platforms fired, destroying thousands of canisters. Millions more got through. The compound dispersed in the atmosphere, spreading on the wind, drifting down on the Valkyrie capital where 15 billion citizens lived their lives. The screaming started 3 minutes later. President Catherine Wells watched the feed from the Valkyrie homeworld. Cities going silent. Billions of lives ending. The same thing they had done to Europa, happening to them. Madam President, the Valkyrie are broadcasting a surrender offer, her aide said quietly. They're asking for terms. Catherine thought of 10 billion humans who would never ask for anything again. Tell them we'll consider their surrender after we visited all 47 of their colony worlds. They wanted to demonstrate power. We're demonstrating extinction. Jake Morrison's fleet jumped away from the Valkyrie homeworld, leaving behind a planet that would be silent within hours. 0043 ships were now 39. 4 had destroyed themselves with micro-jumps. But the mission was complete. Set course for the Valkyrie colony at Kepler 7. Jake ordered. We have 46 more stops to make. Danny Cooper looked at his commander. Sir, at this rate, we won't have any ships left by the time we finish. Jake Morrison stared at the stars ahead. Then we'll finish it in escape pods if we have to. The Valkyrie wanted to teach humanity about power. Class is still in session. The Valkyrie Empire sent emergency broadcasts to all their colonies. Evacuate. Hide. Run. The humans were coming, and they weren't interested in occupation or tribute. They were interested in extinction, and they had the tools to accomplish it. Across the galaxy, species that had watched Europa's destruction with indifference suddenly paid attention. The primitives from Earth had just done the impossible. They had struck back, and they had struck hard. The war for humanity's survival had become something else entirely. It had become a lesson that would echo across the stars for generations. Never back a species into a corner, never assume primitives are harmless, and never, ever broadcast your atrocities to humans and expect them to surrender peacefully. Operation Alien Extinct was halfway complete, and humanity had no intention of stopping until the lesson was learned. The colony world of Kepler 7 had been Valkyrie property for 800 years. 2 billion citizens called it home, making it the third most populous world in the Empire. Governor Zandris received the warning from the homeworld with disbelief. Humans. Here. Impossible. His disbelief lasted until the sensor stations detected 30 to 9 human ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Evacuate the planet! Zandris ordered immediately. All civilian transports are to begin loading passengers. Priority to young and genetic archives. His military advisor, Commander Veltran, shook his head. Governor, we have 200 defense ships in orbit. We can hold them off while the civilians escape. The homeworld had 400 platforms and 80 cruisers. The humans went through them like they weren't there. We evacuate. Now. But evacuation took time, and time was something the Valkyrie no longer had. Jake Morrison watched the colony world through his view screen. Massive transport ships were launching from the surface, packed with refugees. Part of him felt something almost like regret. These were civilians, not warriors, not the ones who had ordered Europa's destruction. Then he remembered watching the broadcast. Remembered High Chancellor Zethris smiling as 10 billion humans died. Remembered that every Valkyrie on that colony had watched the same broadcast and done nothing. Launch the payload, he ordered. Linda Grant, his chief engineer, spoke up from her station. Commander, I'm reading massive civilian evacuation in progress. Transporters full of non-combatants. I know, Jake said quietly. Launch the payload. The canisters fell. The Valkyrie defense fleet tried to intercept them, destroying thousands. Millions more reached the atmosphere. Compound V7 spread across Kepler 7's sky like a plague. Governor Zandris felt the tingling in his neural cluster. He had 19 seconds left to live, though he didn't know it. He used those seconds to send one final message to the Empire. The humans are not warriors, they are exterminators. They will not stop. They cannot be bargained with. If the Empire wishes to survive, destroy Earth now. Kill them all before they kill us all. Then the governor of Kepler-7 died along with every Valkyrie who hadn't made it off the planet. The human fleet moved. Kevin Price tracked Operation Alien Extinct from Earth's command center. The Valkyrie Empire was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. 20 colony worlds sterilized. 35 billion Valkyrie dead. The Empire's military was in complete disarray, unable to coordinate a defense against an enemy that refused to fight by any recognizable rules. Dr. Scipio, feminism is an intelligent price. We're receiving communications from other galactic species, an intelligence officer reported. The Theron Collective is requesting an emergency meeting. The Silicate Commonwealth has offered to mediate a peace settlement. Even the reclusive Draconians are asking for Earth's terms. Bryce leaned back in his chair. Earth's terms. Interesting how quickly we went from primitives to players in galactic politics. Sir, should I forward these requests to President Wells? No. Forward them to Commander Morrison. He's the one conducting the operation. Let him decide if he's interested in talking. Jake Morrison received the messages while his fleet prepared to jump to the next target. 27 ships left now. Operation Alien Extinct was taking its toll on human forces as well. Every micro-jump damaged the ships a little more. Every engagement cost lives. But they kept going. Commander, the Theron Collective is offering to broker a ceasefire, Danny Cooper said. They're promising to enforce Valkyrie withdrawal from human space. What do they want in return? Jake asked. They want us to stop. They're calling Operation Alien Extinct a threat to galactic stability. They're saying if we continue, other species will see humanity as the aggressors. Jake Morrison laughed without humor. We are the aggressors. The Valkyrie killed 10 billion of us to prove a point. We're killing them to prove a different point. Tell the Theron Collective that we'll consider their offer after we've reduced the Valkyrie Empire to a population small enough that they never threaten anyone again. Sir, that's genocide. Yes, Jake agreed. That's exactly what it is. The same thing they started when they destroyed Europa. The difference is, we're going to finish it. The fleet jumped. On Earth, President Catherine Wells faced increasing pressure from her own government. The Senate wanted to accept the ceasefire offers. The military command was worried about the precedent Operation Alien Extinct was setting. Even some of her closest advisors were suggesting it was time to stop. She listened to them all, then made her decision. We stop when the Valkyrie Empire no longer exists as a functional government. We stop when their military is incapable of threatening a human settlement ever again. We stop when the rest of the galaxy understands that you don't get to murder billions of humans and walk away. Senator Paul Martinez stood up. Madam President, we're becoming the monsters we're fighting. How many Valkyrie civilians have died? How many will die before we're satisfied? Catherine looked at him coldly. How many of our civilians did they kill? 10 billion, Senator. They did it on purpose as a demonstration, while the galaxy watched. Now the galaxy is watching us demonstrate what happens next. I will not stop this operation to make other species comfortable with our response. The Valkyrie have offered surrender multiple times. They offered surrender after we killed 40 billion of them. They didn't offer it after they killed 10 billion of us. That tells me they only understand strength. So we'll keep demonstrating strength until the lesson sticks. Jake Morrison's fleet arrived at the Valkyrie military command world of Zenthar Prime. This wasn't a civilian colony. This was where the Empire trained its warriors, built its weapons, coordinated its campaigns of conquest. 15 million Valkyrie military personnel, no civilians, no refugees. This is what we came for, Jake told his crew. Every Valkyrie on that planet is part of the military machine that decided to murder Europa. Questions? There were none. The battle was brutal. The Valkyrie military fought with desperate efficiency. They knew what was coming. They had seen 20 colony worlds go silent. They fought like cornered predators. And they fought well. They lost anyway. Jake's fleet was down to 19 ships by the time the last defense platform went dark. But the payload was delivered. Compound V7 spread across Zenthar Prime, and the military heart of the Valkyrie Empire went silent. Commander, we're receiving a direct communication from High Chancellor Zethris, Danny Cooper said. He's asking to speak with you personally. Jake considered refusing. Then he decided the Empire's leader deserved to hear what came next. Zethris appeared on screen, his 4 eyes showing emotions humans had no names for. Fear, certainly. Rage. Desperation. Commander Morrison, you have made your point. Earth is strong. We underestimated you. But this must stop. You are destroying an entire civilization. You started destroying a civilization when you killed Europa, Jake replied. We're just faster at it than you were. We offer complete withdrawal from human space. Reparations. Technology transfers. Anything you want. I want those 10 billion people back. Can you do that? Zethris's silence was answer enough. Then we continue, Jake said. You taught the galaxy that power means the right to kill whoever you want. We're teaching the galaxy that power means consequences. Which lesson do you think will last longer? You are making humanity a pariah. Every species in the galaxy will fear you. Jake Morrison smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Good. Fear kept you alive for 3,000 years. Maybe it'll do the same for us. Except we won't make your mistake. We won't assume fear means safety. We won't get comfortable. And we won't ever forget what happens when someone murders 10 billion humans. He closed the channel set course for Valkyrie Colony World Delta 7. We have 26 targets left, and I want this finished before we lose another ship. The human fleet jumped, leaving behind the burning remains of the Valkyrie military command. Across the galaxy, species watched and learned. The primitives from Earth had become something terrifying. They had become a species that would burn the galaxy before they accepted subjugation. The Valkyrie Empire had taught them that lesson. Now they were teaching it back. Operation Alien Extinct continued, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath waiting to see where it would end. The Valkyrie Empire's fall accelerated. Jake Morrison's fleet was down to 14 ships, each one held together by human stubbornness and engineering tape, but they kept jumping, kept fighting. 30 colony worlds, sterilized 68 billion Valkyrie dead. The empire that had ruled for 3,000 years was collapsing in less than 3 months. High Chancellor Zethris retreated to the imperial fortress world of Kragoth, a planet designed to withstand siege warfare for decades. Automated defense grids, underground bunkers, enough supplies to sustain the remaining Valkyrie leadership indefinitely. It was the Empire's final stronghold. It wouldn't be enough. Kevin Price worked around the clock refining Compound V7. The Valkyrie had started developing countermeasures, atmospheric filters that could neutralize the compound before it reached the surface. Price's team had to stay ahead of them. The latest variant should bypass their filters, Price explained to President Wells during a secure call. But I need to tell you something. We're approaching the point where the Valkyrie population will be too small to sustain their civilization, another 10 or 15 colony worlds, and they'll enter demographic collapse. They won't recover. Catherine Wells studied the data. How many Valkyrie are left? Best estimates put it at around 90 billion, down from 150 billion before Operation Alien Extinct began. And how many humans are left? Price was quiet for a moment. 72 billion, down from 82 billion before Europa. Then we still have work to do, Catherine said. The Valkyrie chose this path when they decided to demonstrate their superiority by massacring 10 billion people. We're just showing them where that path leads. Madam President, the galactic community is threatening economic sanctions. The Theron Collective has closed their trade routes to human ships. The Silicate Commonwealth is calling for our expulsion from the Galactic Council. We were never on their council, Catherine pointed out. We were too primitive to warrant inclusion. Funny how they want us involved now that we're winning. Jake Morrison sat in what remained of his flagship's command center. The ship had taken damage in the last engagement that should have destroyed it. Human engineering was keeping it functional through sheer spite at this point. Commander, I'm reading a massive fleet assembling at the Valkyrie Fortress world, Danny Cooper reported. Looks like they're gathering every remaining military vessel for a final defense. How many ships? Over 500. They've recalled everything. Defense platforms, patrol cruisers, even civilian vessels they've armed. They're making a stand. Jake looked at his own fleet. 14 ships against 500. The old Jake Morrison would have calculated the odds and found them impossible. The new Jake Morrison, the one who had watched 10 billion humans die, didn't care about odds anymore. Good, he said. We won't have to hunt them down individually. All ships, prepare for final jump. We're ending this. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel directly in the middle of the Valkyrie formation. It was tactically insane. It violated every rule of space combat. It was exactly what Jake intended. Launch everything, he ordered. 14 ships released their entire payload simultaneously, millions of canisters spreading in all directions. The Valkyrie fleet fired frantically, trying to intercept them all. They destroyed thousands. Tens of thousands. Compound V7 spread through the Valkyrie fleet. Ships went dark as their crews died at their stations. Admiral Kreveth watched his tactical display as green icons representing Valkyrie ships turned red one by one. All vessels emergency evacuation. Abandon ship and retreat to the planet's surface. But there was nowhere to retreat to. The canisters were falling toward Kragoth as well, bypassing the atmospheric filters through sheer volume. The Valkyrie had designed defenses against conventional weapons. They hadn't designed defenses against an enemy willing to sacrifice everything to deliver a poison that killed on contact. High Chancellor Zethris stood in his bunker, watching the feeds as his civilization died around him. His military commanders were dead. His fleet was silent. His colonies were empty. The Valkyrie Empire, 3,000 years of history and achievement, was ending because he had decided to make an example of humanity. He opened a channel to the human fleet. Commander Morrison, I wish to speak with you. Jake Morrison appeared on screen looking tired. His ship's bridge was damaged, emergency lighting casting shadows across his face. What do you want, Chancellor? I want to understand. We offered surrender, we offered reparations. We offered everything except our own extinction. Why wasn't it enough? Jake was quiet for a long moment. You killed 10 billion people as a demonstration. As entertainment. You broadcast it across the galaxy to show everyone how powerful you were. Did those people get to offer surrender? Did they get to negotiate terms? They were a warning. A message to prevent further conflict. And you're a message too, Jake said. You're the message that says if you genocide humans, we'll genocide you back. We'll do it faster, more efficiently, and we won't stop until you're as dead as the people you murdered. That's the warning the galaxy needs to hear. So this was never about survival. This was revenge. No, Jake corrected. This was about making sure it never happens again. Survival is what happens after we finish here. After every species in the galaxy understands that humans are not prey, we're not subjects, we're not primitives to be toyed with. We're the species that will burn your civilization to ash if you threaten ours. Zethris could hear the compound working its way through his bunker's ventilation system. He had perhaps 2 minutes left. You have become monsters, Commander. History will remember you as butchers. History is written by survivors, Jake said, and we're the ones who are going to survive. You made sure of that when you taught us the rules of this galaxy. Power is the only thing that matters. We learned that lesson very well. The transmission ended. Jake Morrison sat back in his command chair. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly. They had all lost someone on Europa. They all knew what they had done these past months. They would carry it forever. Commander, the Valkyrie homeworld is going silent, Danny Cooper said. All broadcasts have ceased. Compound V7 has reached saturation. Any remaining Valkyrie colonies? 3 small outposts. Less than 1 million population total. They're broadcasting surrender and requesting asylum. Jake considered it. 3 million Valkyrie left from a population of 150 billion. A remnant. Not enough to rebuild an empire. Just enough to remember what one had existed. Grant them asylum. They can live, but they live as refugees. Let them tell the story of what happens when you murder billions of humans. President Catherine Wells addressed the Galactic Council, even though Earth had never been invited to join. The other species could refuse to listen, but after Operation Alien Extinct, they wouldn't dare. The Valkyrie Empire demonstrated their power by destroying 10 billion human lives. Earth responded by demonstrating consequence. We are not seeking empire. We are not interested in conquest. But we will never again tolerate being treated as inferiors. The Valkyrie learned this lesson too late. I suggest the rest of you learn it now. The Theron ambassador spoke carefully. Earth has shown itself to be a dangerous species. Your actions have destabilized the entire region. Our actions? Catherine's voice was sharp. We destabilized nothing. The Valkyrie killed 10 billion people as a demonstration of power. They destabilized themselves when they assumed we would simply accept it. We're just the consequence they didn't plan for. You have committed genocide. Yes, Catherine agreed, just like they did. The difference is, we made sure everyone understood why. The Valkyrie wanted to teach the galaxy about power. We taught the galaxy about proportional response. You kill 10 billion of us, we kill all of you. Simple mathematics. Dead Frauben. The Silicate representative tried a different approach. Earth must understand. There are rules in civilized space. Laws of war, codes of conduct. Were those laws enforced when Europa died? Catherine asked. Did anyone sanction the Valkyrie? Did anyone offer to defend humanity? Or did you all just watch and wait to see if we would surrender? The silence from the council was answer enough. Earth is willing to join the galactic community, Catherine continued. We're willing to trade, to share technology, to participate in mutual defense agreements. But we will do so as equals, not as subjects. And any species that forgets that will receive the same education we gave the Valkyrie. Are we understood? They understood. Jake Morrison returned to Earth 9 months after Operation Alien Extinct began. His fleet of 43 ships had been reduced to 11. Thousands of human crew members had died in the campaign, but the mission was complete. The Valkyrie Empire no longer existed. He stood in front of a memorial wall, looking at the names of the 10 billion who had died on Europa. 10 billion people who would never see the justice that had been delivered in their name. Dr. Kevin Price approached him quietly. Commander Morrison, the President wants to award you the Medal of Valor, the highest honor Earth can give. I don't want it, Jake said. I know, but you're getting it anyway. You saved humanity. I killed 147 billion sentient beings, Jake corrected. I turned Earth into a galactic pariah. I violated every rule of civilized warfare. I committed genocide. The Valkyrie started it, and we finished it, Jake agreed. But that doesn't make it right. It just makes it necessary. Price was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I think you made the correct choice. The galaxy needed to learn that humans can't be pushed around. They learned. They learned we're willing to commit extinction-level warfare to protect ourselves. They learned we're dangerous. That's not the same as respecting us. Maybe not, Price said, meaning that government was employed. But it means they'll think twice before threatening us. Sometimes fear is the best protection. Jake Morrison looked at the memorial wall again. 10 billion names, 10 billion reasons why Operation Alien Extinct had been necessary. 10 billion people who deserved justice, even if that justice looked like genocide. I hope you're right, he said quietly, because if you're not, we just taught the galaxy that the only way to deal with humans is to kill us all before we can fight back. We made ourselves into the most dangerous species in known space. Given the choice between being dangerous and being dead, I'll take dangerous every time. Jake nodded slowly. Yeah, me too. I just hope the galaxy gives us a chance to be something else eventually, something better than the species that burned an empire to ash. He walked away from the memorial carrying the weight of 147 billion deaths. The Valkyrie had taught humanity a lesson about power. Humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson about consequences. And Jake Morrison would spend the rest of his life wondering if either lesson had been worth the cost. But he would never regret ensuring that humanity survived to ask that question. The Valkyrie Empire was extinct. Earth endured. In the cold mathematics of survival, that was the only equation that mattered. Operation Alien Extinct was complete, and humanity's place in the galaxy was secured through fire and blood. The stars would remember. The galaxy would never forget. And no species would ever again make the mistake of treating humans as primitives to be exterminated. That was the legacy of 10 billion dead and the promise of 72 billion who survived to tell their story.